Every day, hundreds of tourists gather at Buckingham Palace, captivated by the unwavering discipline of the iconic royal guards. These soldiers are more than just a symbol, they represent centuries of tradition, honor, and duty. But on this particular morning, one tourist decided to challenge that tradition. Armed with nothing more than a cup of lemonade and a reckless sense of humor, he thought he could outsmart the guard and create a viral moment. What he believed would be a harmless prank quickly spiraled into the most humiliating experience of his life. It was a picture-perfect morning at Buckingham Palace. The sun rose steadily, casting its golden glow over the historic gates and polished railings. Each beam of light seemed to breathe life into the ancient stones, creating an almost magical atmosphere around the palace grounds. At his post, a royal guard stood motionless, the very embodiment of dignity and tradition. Dressed in his immaculate scarlet tunic and iconic bearskin hat, he exuded an unshakable presence. His polished boots caught the morning light, glinting like mirrors against the cobblestone path. As the minutes passed, a crowd began to gather, their excited whispers and the soft clicks of cameras filling the air. Families posed for pictures, children pointed in awe, and tourists marveled at the stoic figure. Though the energy in the square was lively, there was a quiet reverence for the guard's discipline and the centuries-old traditions he represented. Among the crowd gathered at Buckingham Palace, one individual stood out, not for admiration or respect, but for his boisterous demeanor. A young man in his mid-20s, dressed to turn heads, strutted confidently through the square. His designer sunglasses reflected the bright morning sun, perched atop his perfectly styled hair. His tight-fitting t-shirt, emblazoned with bold text reading, "Social Media King," was as loud as his personality. Clutching a large cup of lemonade in one hand and his phone in the other, the tourist had one mission: to create content that would skyrocket his follower count. Ryan Parker was no stranger to attention. With hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, he thrived on pushing boundaries, often teetering dangerously close to disrespect. "Alright, guys," Ryan said, speaking directly into his phone's camera, his voice dripping with excitement. "Get ready for some viral gold. We're about to have some fun with London's finest statue." He smirked as his friends, wearing matching Prankster Squad t-shirts, chuckled behind him. Each of them had their phones out, ready to capture every moment of his antics. For Ryan, this wasn't just a prank, it was an opportunity to boost his fame and rack up likes, comments, and shares. Ryan's casual demeanor belied his arrogance. As he sipped his lemonade, he eyed the stoic royal guard standing a few meters away. To him, this wasn't a symbol of centuries-old tradition or honor. It was simply another prop for his next big moment online. He held up the cup, shaking it theatrically for his camera. "Think he'll flinch?" Ryan asked his followers with a confident grin. "Let's find out." With that, Ryan stepped closer to the barrier, his every move radiating an air of superiority. His focus wasn't on the history or dignity of the moment, it was solely on creating a spectacle for his digital audience, no matter the cost. As Ryan stood near the barrier, his confidence only grew. He turned to his camera and smirked. "Alright, everyone, watch this. Let's see if we can make him blink." His friends laughed behind him, their phones ready to record every second. Ryan started with light-hearted jabs, hoping to get a reaction from the royal guard. "Hey, man, that hat must be heavy. How do you keep it from falling off?" He chuckled at his own joke, but the guard remained motionless, his eyes fixed ahead. The crowd around Ryan began to shift uncomfortably. Some parents pulled their children closer, quietly whispering about respect. Others gave Ryan disapproving looks, but he didn't notice. He was too focused on his performance. Stepping closer to the barrier, Ryan waved his lemonade cup in the air dramatically. "Come on, buddy," he said loudly, "lighten up. It's just a bit of fun." The crowd grew quieter, sensing that Ryan was crossing a line. He leaned forward, pointing at the guard's uniform. "This thing looks like it's from a costume shop. Do they give you a new one every year or just patch up the old one?" His friends snickered, but their laughter seemed more nervous now as the tension in the square grew. Ryan ignored the growing unease. Instead, he raised the lemonade cup high, swirling the liquid inside and making exaggerated gestures. "All right, folks, time for the big moment," he announced, as if he were the star of a grand performance. The guard still didn't move, his posture as solid as a statue. The tourists watching grew silent, their focus now entirely on what was happening. Ryan's antics had shifted the mood in the square from excitement to unease, but he was too caught up in his own ego to notice. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Ryan's arrogant smirk only widened as he prepared for his final move. Ryan stepped back slightly, raising his lemonade cup above his head with a theatrical flair. "All right, everyone," he called out, his voice cutting through the tense silence of the crowd. "Time for the grand finale." His grin widened as he glanced at his phone screen, ensuring his audience was still watching live. The guard remained motionless, his eyes fixed straight ahead, his posture impeccable. The crowd stood still, watching the scene unfold. A few murmurs rippled through the square as some people quietly whispered, "He's not really going to do it, is he?" Ryan laughed, clearly enjoying the attention. He swirled the lemonade in the cup, the ice rattling loudly against the plastic, a sound that seemed to echo in the growing quiet. "Let's see if this guy can handle a little refreshment," he said mockingly. His friends chuckled nervously, but their unease was evident. Then it happened. Ryan hurled the cup with exaggerated force, sending it flying through the air in a high arc. Time seemed to slow as every eye followed its path. The lemonade cup spun, droplets of golden liquid catching the sunlight and scattering like tiny crystals. The crowd collectively inhaled, a wave of disbelief washing over them. It was heading straight for the guard's face. In an instant, the silence was broken, not by chaos, but by precision. With a movement so swift and seamless, it almost seemed rehearsed, the royal guard's right hand shot out. His arm extended in a single, fluid motion, and he caught the cup mid-air. Not a single drop of lemonade spilled, and his uniform remained untouched, as pristine as it had been all morning. The crowd gasped, the sound almost as loud as an applause. Phones captured every angle of the incredible moment. Some recorded in stunned silence, others whispered words of amazement. "Did you see that? Unbelievable." For the first time, the guard's eyes shifted slightly, locking onto Ryan. His gaze was calm but intense, a silent warning that carried far more weight than words ever could. Ryan's smirk disappeared in an instant. His bravado melted into shock, his face pale as the full weight of what had just happened, and what it meant, sank in. The square was no longer just a place of spectacle. It had become the scene of Ryan's humiliation and the guard's quiet triumph. The instant the lemonade cup was caught mid-air, the atmosphere in the square shifted. The crowd, which had been buzzing with murmurs and unease, erupted in a collective gasp. For a few moments, there was nothing but stunned silence. All eyes were on the royal guard, who stood as composed as ever, the cup in his hand and not a single drop of lemonade marring his flawless uniform. Ryan's smug smile evaporated almost immediately. His once confident demeanor gave way to pure shock. He stood frozen, his face pale and his eyes wide as the reality of what had just happened sank in. This wasn't the viral moment he had envisioned. Instead of being the star of a triumphant prank, he was now the object of humiliation. The crowd began to murmur, but their tone had changed. Where there was once idle curiosity, there was now disapproval and disdain. "What was he thinking?" an elderly man muttered to his wife. "How disrespectful," a mother whispered as she shielded her young child from the scene. Phones that had been recording Ryan's antics were now capturing his disgrace. A few people began shaking their heads, some even glaring at him openly. The guard remained motionless for a moment, holding the cup as if deciding what to do next. Then, with the same precision he had shown in catching it, he lowered the cup and took a single step forward. The crowd fell silent again, sensing something important was about to happen. Ryan flinched as the guard's eyes locked onto him. The guard's voice, calm and steady, cut through the tense air. "This uniform," he began, "represents centuries of tradition and honor. Disrespect it, and you disrespect all who served before me." His tone was measured but carried an undeniable weight, as though every word was backed by the gravitas of history itself. The crowd, captivated by the guard's composure and dignity, erupted into quiet murmurs of agreement. A few even clapped, though the sound quickly died down as the seriousness of the moment set in. Ryan tried to stammer a response, but his words caught in his throat. The bravado that had fueled his antics was gone, replaced by visible fear and embarrassment. From the edge of the square, a security officer approached. The crowd instinctively parted to let him through. His steps were deliberate, his expression stern as he reached Ryan. Placing a firm hand on his shoulder, he said, "Sir, you'll need to come with me." Ryan tried to protest. "It was just a joke," he muttered weakly, his voice barely audible. The officer didn't waver. "Actions have consequences," he replied firmly. As the security officer led him away, the crowd began to applaud, their cheers echoing across the square. Phones continued recording, but now they captured not just Ryan's walk of shame, but the guard's unwavering professionalism. Ryan, red-faced and humiliated, was no longer the prankster seeking fame. He had become a cautionary tale, a reminder of why respect and tradition should never be taken lightly. The events at Buckingham Palace that morning didn't just stay within the square, they quickly spread far beyond. Within hours, videos of the royal guard's impeccable professionalism and the tourists' humiliating failure began flooding social media. Clips of the guard catching the lemonade cup mid-air were edited into slow-motion montages, paired with captions like, "Respect the uniform," and "Tradition always wins." What had started as Ryan's attempt to gain internet fame turned into a moment that inspired millions. The viral footage sparked discussions worldwide, with viewers praising the guard's discipline and condemning Ryan's behavior. Social media platforms were ablaze with commentary. One user wrote, "That guard just proved why respect is earned, not demanded. This is what true professionalism looks like." Another commented, "When arrogance meets centuries of tradition, the result is always the same: tradition wins." News outlets picked up the story almost immediately. Headlines ranged from humorous to profound. The catch seen around the world: Royal Guard teaches respect. Humiliation at Buckingham Palace, a lesson in tradition and dignity. Viral video highlights the honor of the Royal Guard. Morning shows invited former military officers and cultural commentators to discuss the significance of the event. One retired colonel remarked, "This wasn't just a response to a prank, it was a demonstration of what discipline and training truly mean." That guard upheld centuries of tradition in a single moment. Meanwhile, Ryan's social media empire crumbled. Sponsors dropped him, and his follower count plummeted as people unfollowed en masse. His apology video, hastily recorded and filled with excuses, only drew more ridicule. Viewers flooded his comments with statements like, "Apologies don't erase disrespect," and, "You wanted to go viral, well, congratulations." The Royal Guard, on the other hand, became an icon of respect and professionalism. People flocked to Buckingham Palace not just to see the changing of the guard but to pay their respects. Tour guides began including the incident in their narratives, using it as a teaching moment about the importance of honor and tradition. The lemonade cup itself became a symbol of the event. It was reportedly taken into evidence by palace security but soon found its way into the Royal Military Academy, where it was displayed as part of a training exhibit on composure and discipline under pressure. For many, the story served as a powerful reminder. The guard's quiet dignity in the face of provocation was a stark contrast to the prankster's arrogance and disrespect. It was a moment that showed the world that honor, tradition, and discipline are timeless values that cannot be overshadowed by fleeting internet fame. As one viral tweet summarized, the Royal Guard doesn't just stand still, they stand for something greater. Respect isn't optional. And so, the story ended with a lasting message. Tradition and respect are not to be taken lightly. The Royal Guard doesn't just stand for show, they stand for honor. Thank you for watching this incredible story of dignity and tradition standing strong against disrespect. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. Your support helps us bring you amazing tales of honor, tradition, and life lessons that inspire us all. We'd also love to hear from you. Where are you watching this story from? Let us know in the comments below. Share your thoughts about the Royal Guard's actions or what this story means to you. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps us create even better content for you.